The side gate jerks inward, and the night explodes. Byzantine shields slam into the gap as defenders surge out for one desperate wagon, and the Ottoman Empire's watchfires flare like eyes opening all at once. Arrows hiss from the dark. Hooves churn frozen mud. Drums beat slow. Not to inspire, but to measure time. Hollow-faced men, outnumbered and half-starved, try to drag grain through the breach. But Ottoman spearmen snap forward and shove the column toward the ditch. A torch falls, the wall signal blinks twice wrong, and Ottoman riders cut across the road to seal the seam. Above them, ladders rattle against stone, where no ladders were a heartbeat ago, forcing the gatehouse archers to duck and scatter. Down in the crush, wood splinters, shields buckle, and spilled grain skitters under boots like coins. An Ottoman captain raises a hand and holds the pursuit back, letting the sortie run just far enough to taste hope. Then hidden feet close a second cordon behind the carts, silent as snow. If Bursa cannot haul food inside before dawn, the city breaks. So what decision is the Ottoman Empire making right now that will force surrender without ever storming the walls? The clash at the gate was not a conquest yet. It was a test. The kind that decides whether a city still has a pulse. Bursa sat behind thick stone and old confidence, a Byzantine capital in everything but name, guarding roads that fed markets, tax collectors, and messengers moving between the Marmara coast and the interior. For the Ottoman forces outside the walls, this was more than a prize. It was a lock. If the lock opened, the frontier power that would become the Ottoman Empire could turn raids into rule. Inside, fear had started to replace routine. The defenders could still fight in bursts, but they could not fight hunger every hour. Every loaf became an argument, every ration a rumor. The city's leaders watched their granaries like men watching an hourglass, counting not days, but meals. Outside, the Ottoman commanders watched something else. Gates, habits, rhythms, who went out to fetch water, who took the night watch, who cracked first, because Bursa's walls could be respected and still be defeated if the ring outside stayed unbroken long enough. To understand why that ring mattered, rewind to the pressure building across northwestern Anatolia. The Byzantine world here was not a single, unstoppable machine. It was a patchwork cities that still carried imperial pride, but depended on fragile roads, local deals, and thin garrisons. Bursa's strength was its position. Orchards, trade, and the mountain slopes behind it, all funneling wealth into a city that could pay soldiers and buy time. Its weakness was the same map: cut the roads, and the city became an island. The Ottoman forces gathering beyond the ditches were not trying to win a glorious day. This was early warfare: bows, lances, shields, and patience, where the sharpest weapon was control of movement. Riders could appear like smoke on one road, then vanish and reappear on another, forcing every caravan to guess wrong. Messengers carried warnings that arrived too late. Farmers stopped planting near the walls. Markets outside the gates died first, and then the city started eating its future. So when Bursa's leaders looked out and saw watchfires multiplying, the terror was not the flames. It was the pattern: tight, deliberate, and getting closer every night. And the pattern meant one thing. Someone outside had decided the city would be taken by time, not by force. Bursa did not begin to fall because the walls were weak. It began to fall because the land around them was taken away, piece by piece. Ottoman horsemen lived in the seams between hills, orchards, and river bends where a convoy had to slow, where a guard had to look back, where a single arrow could turn a dozen carts around. By day, the blockade tightened with pickets and watchfires. By night, riders shifted posts like moving shadows, so no one inside could learn a safe route out. The defenders tried to punch holes in the ring. Short sorties at dawn, a rush to a mill, a sprint to a well. Then the scramble back under the gatehouse while arrows rattled on shields. Sometimes they dragged in flour. More often they dragged in wounded pride and empty hands. Winter air turned every breath into a visible clock, and rumors moved faster than food. A storehouse still full, a traitor on the council, a relief force that never came. Then the Ottoman Empire changed the rhythm, no grand assault. Only quiet provocations. A lantern blinking from the ridge. A merchant allowed to whisper at the ditch. A small wagon that almost reached the gate before disappearing into the dark. But the next signal from Bursa's walls would be the one the city could not take back. By the time the snows thinned, the siege lines looked permanent, low earthworks, sharpened stakes, and watchfires spaced like a necklace around Bursa's dark walls. The Ottoman Empire did not need a single dramatic breach. It needed control of roads, wells, and the fear that traveled ahead of every hoofbeat. Riders screened the countryside, turning every path into a question, with only one safe answer: none. The city could still see smoke from distant farms, but carts no longer reached the gates, and each day the defenders waited for relief. The ring learned their habits. Inside, rationing became a second religion. Bread grew smaller, tempers sharper, and patrols on the battlements heavier with exhaustion. A handful of sorties tried to break the pressure shields up, arrows loose, a sprint toward stored grain. Then the same frantic retreat under the gatehouse as Ottoman archers darkened the air. Outnumbered nearly 2-to-1 outside the walls, the defenders began to understand a brutal rule: courage cannot eat. Then a new Ottoman order rippled through the camps, drums slowing, fires dimming, movement tightening as if the siege itself was holding its breath. At dusk, the side gate shuddered on its hinges, and a single ladder rose in silence against the stone. Night turned Bursa's wall into a black blade against the sky. And the ladder that rose in silence was meant to steal attention, not stone. Defenders crowded the battlements, hands shaking on bowstrings, kicking down rungs, smashing fingers with rocks, anything to keep the climb from becoming a flood. Below, Ottoman Empire archers did not waste arrows. They loosed only when a torch revealed a target, turning light itself into a trap. The ring stayed disciplined, no shouting victory, no reckless surge, just pressure, measured, patient, tightening. Then the misread signal blinked from the ridge again, and the gatehouse captain made the same mistake twice. A side postern cracked open for a breath of air, and a fast run toward a hidden grain stash. And the sorties spilled out in a thin, desperate line. Ottoman riders let them run. Ottoman spears waited where the road narrowed. In the dark, spilled grain rolled under boots like tiny betrayals, and the retreat jammed into the doorway in panicked silence. In the gatehouse, the hinge whispered a second time. The second whisper at the hinge was smaller than the first, but it carried farther. Byzantine defenders tried to force the postern shut, shoulders braced, shields scraping stone, yet the door held on a sliver, as if an unseen hand inside refused to let it die. Outside, Ottoman Empire spearmen stepped in without a shout, locking the gap with long shafts and calm weight, turning the doorway into a funnel. Torches swung above the arch as archers loosed too fast and too blind, arrows biting into masonry and vanishing into the ditch. A horn call from the wall answered late, and the men at the hinge hesitated for a heartbeat. On the road, the sortie's rear line collided with its own retreat. Men pressed chest to back, boots skating on spilled grain, breath turning to steam in the cold. Then the drumbeat shifted slower. Closer, and Ottoman riders appeared at the bend, where escape was supposed to be. Horses planted like a living gate. A captain's hand rose, and the ring tightened by steps, not speed. The trapped column stalled, and the city's last gamble became a pileup of bodies, carts, and fear. Inside Bursa, the gatehouse lantern went out. Dawn reveals what night hides. Bursa is not surrounded by an army, so much as by a system. Watchfires sit on ridgelines like fixed stars, pickets guard the wells, and riders patrol the cart tracks where caravans used to creak toward the gates. The Ottoman Empire keeps the ring uneven on purpose, thin in one place, heavy in another, so every defender guesses wrong about where the weakness is. Outside the walls, fields go quiet, orchards stand untended, and the roads turn into empty corridors that lead nowhere. Inside, the city learns new sounds. the scrape of ration bowls, the cough in dark rooms, the bell that marks distribution like a verdict. Men who once boasted of the walls now argue over crumbs and blame, while exhausted guards stare outward, searching the hills for a relief banner that never rises. Sorties shrink from strikes to scavenging quick runs for firewood. A dash for a stray goat, each one answered by arrows and the cold patience of spears. Then a rumor spreads along the battlements like a spark. Someone has a way out, and someone has a way in. In the last light, a rope drops from Bursa's wall, swaying gently above the ditch. The rope is not a rescue. It is a confession. Someone inside Bursa is choosing air over honor. A shadow slides down into the ditch. And Ottoman Empire scouts do not rush. They drift closer, letting the escapee believe the dark is empty. A hand clamps a mouth. The figure is turned toward the watchfires instead of the hills. And a single question lands like a weight. How many more will climb down tonight? By midday, the siege line shifts like a living net. A safe gap appears on one road, wide enough for a starving city to notice, narrow enough to be owned. Merchants are waved through with deliberate mercy, carrying salt and rumors back to the walls, while riders beyond the next ridge strip any real relief before it can reach Bursa. The city's archers watch the carts roll by and feel something worse than anger dependence. Inside, leaders hear two futures at once: surrender that keeps breath in chests, or pride that empties the streets. At sunset, the rope drops again. But this time, it is tied to a small sack that thumps against stone, heavy with something that should never leave the city. The sack splits on the rocks, and grain spills into the ditch like spilled blood, without the color and offering. A bribe. A signal that the city is bleeding supplies it cannot spare. Ottoman Empire scouts do not celebrate. They count. If Bursa can throw food away, it means the council is still fighting itself, and that fight is as valuable as any breach. The ring tightens with quiet confidence. Pickets move closer to the orchards. Riders sit on the ridges where messengers once slipped through. The roads become lines on a map that no longer belong to the people inside. Within the walls, desperation turns practical. Sorties are planned like thefts. Small teams, no banners, fast feet, one objective: reach a hidden storehouse beyond the cordon and drag something back before the watchfires can blink. The defenders choose a night when the wind rises, when torches gutter and the ditch smells like wet earth instead of smoke. The gatehouse captain listens to the gusts and thinks the noise will cover hinges. It will not. Outside, Ottoman commanders let the wind speak first, then shift their men into positions that look like emptiness from the wall. And when the side postern cracks open again, the trap is already waiting wider than last time, quieter than prayer. The postern opens into wind and darkness, and Bursa's breakout comes bigger than the Ottoman pickets expected. Shields first, then men with hooks clearing the ditch. On the wall, a bell hammers a second rhythm to disguise the hinge, while archers rake the road with hurried volleys that buy seconds for carts to roll. For a heartbeat, the sortie wins space and turns toward a narrow track slipping between orchards and hills. Ottoman scouts signal retreat at first, fooled by wind-blown dust and the way the column bends away from the gate. A screen of riders shifts the wrong way, and a seam opens in the ring. Then a torch inside the mass flares by accident, lighting ropes, empty sacks, and faces set on escape-proof. This is a raid for food and a break for air. Horses pivot, spears level, and the Ottoman Empire closes from both sides, not with a charge, but with steps that turn the track into a corridor of breath and panic. The front ranks can still punch through, but only if the gatehouse captain gambles and keeps the door open for one last wave. If the gate stays open, the Ottoman Empire will pour through the gap. The gate stays open a fraction too long, and the fight compresses into a brutal geometry. Carts wedged sideways, shields pinned, men shouting orders that vanish under wind and drumbeat. Byzantine defenders at the hinge try to pull their own people back inside. But the retreat has no shape anymore, only bodies pressing for the same sliver of safety. Outside, Ottoman Empire spearmen do not rush the doorway. They seal the road behind it, cutting off the column from its return like closing a book mid-sentence. Then the close call hits the Ottoman ring. A pocket of defenders, seeing the trap, swings hard and drives at the thinnest part of the cordon, spears thrusting, archers firing point-blank into the dark to carve a lane. For a moment the Ottoman screen buckles, horses backing, men slipping on churned mud and scattered grain. A messenger sprints to the command line with a raised handhold or strike, because a reckless push could open the ring wider than the city wall ever did. In the gatehouse, the captain freezes between two disasters: slam the door and abandon men outside, or keep it open and invite the Ottoman Empire inside. If the hinge turns one more time, which choice will Bursa make, mercy or survival? The hinge turns, then stops. Not because Bursa finds courage, but because fear finally chooses a direction. The postern is slammed in the faces of men still outside, and the sound carries across the ditch like a verdict. Inside the wall, defenders brace for the expected rush. Arrows nocked, stones piled, breath held. Outside, Ottoman Empire commanders do something colder. They do not storm the door. They pivot the ring to harvest the mistake. The trapped sortie, now cut off from the city that birthed it, tries to become a shield wall on the road. Their backs face the walls they can no longer reach. Their front faces a tightening semicircle of spears and bows. A small group breaks toward the orchards, hoping trees can hide what stone denied. But riders slide in behind them, closing every lane between trunks. Another group drops to the ditch, hands searching for the rope that once promised escape, only to find it gone. When the wind shifts, a single Ottoman banner becomes visible on the ridge, steady, unmoving, like a reminder that the ring is not an accident. And as dusk falls, the Ottoman Empire marches the captured carts into view of Bursa's battlements, one by one, slowly. Now the city must decide: surrender with breath, or resist and watch every remaining meal disappear. Morning comes brittle and clear, and Bursa's wall is lined with men who no longer shout, only watch as the Ottoman Empire rolls the seized carts back and forth in full view, proving the roads belong to the ring. Inside, the council's last plan dies in public. No hidden storehouse, no secret lane, no relief banner on the ridges. The gatehouse captain orders silence, but silence is worse. It lets hunger speak. A small deputation walks the battlements toward the main gate under a raised cloth, and Ottoman commanders answer without ceremony, offering terms that sound like mercy only because the alternative is emptiness. By afternoon, the city chooses breath over pride. The great gate opens not to a storming rush, but to measured entry, spears low, bows unstrung, riders held back while Byzantine guards stack arms and step aside with faces like stone. The Ottoman Empire wins without a breach. Discipline, blockade, and the slow certainty that a city cannot fight an empty bowl forever. In the frost-shadowed ditch, spilled grain and snapped ladder rungs lie under abandoned shields, while watchfires burn on around a gate that finally stays open. Bursa's surrender did not echo like a single battle cry. It spread like a change in weather. Immediately, the roads around the city reopened under new control, and nearby towns recalculated loyalty in the simplest way, by watching which banners now guarded the markets. For the Byzantine world in the region, the loss was not only a city but a buffer, a place that once absorbed pressure before it reached other strongholds. For the Ottoman Empire, Bursa became more than a captured capital. It became a proof of method. Walls could stand and still be beaten if the land beyond them was mastered first. In the longer view, the lesson traveled faster than any messenger. Future defenders remembered that the Ottoman Empire did not always need a decisive storming day. It could win by turning movement into captivity and time into a weapon. Alliances hesitated, garrisons grew nervous, and every city with a proud wall began to fear the quiet ring of watchfires more than a sudden assault. And in the end, Bursa fell the way hunger always makes a city fall. Not with a breach, but with a door opening to the only future left.